Alright, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
Revolutionary Girl Utena, episode 17. Oh my god, that Nanami episode last week was incredible.
It was a reminder that the show will still do this every once in a while.
Yep.
It will use Nanami specifically for that purpose.
Yes.
Because that is not the extent of her character. That is the privilege of having her character in this anime.
She is the best worst girl. Yes. So, now we're probably into the main story again, you know? But, like, who knows? Maybe the tone won't be quite as serious as it has been in previous episodes.
I doubt it. I doubt it. I
Yeah.
think that we're still introducing a lot of elements right now. So setting a new status quo will
take a little more time.
Yeah, we'll take a little bit more time.
Yeah.
So, y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. Curious. Hey!
Good to see you again.
Yuri?
君は残酷だよ。奇跡なんてありはしないのに。
こんな私をあなたはきっと憎んでいますよね。
そう、憎んでいるさ。
Anthy will remember this.
Thorns of Death.
Yeah, the things attached to roses, you know, they're dangerous. Love is a powerfully dangerous thing.
Love is war? Was that Mickey?
好きだらけだぞ。君らしくないな。
Yeah. Well,
So why is she here?
先輩のお友達だったんですか。ええ、高槻しおりっていうの。
Shiori, yeah.
中等部まではこの学園にいたんだけれど、ちょっと別のところにね。こっちには転入したばかりで寮生活も今日からなの。
Okay.
一人ですけど、どうかよろしくね。アリスガン先輩とは古い付き合いなんですか？そうね。幼馴染というより、ジュリさんとはほとんど一緒に育ったようなものね。いつも私を守ってくれた。
Not always.
Yeah.
心から信頼できるのはジュリさんだけ。私にはもうそんな資格はない。
Ooh.
Yeah, let's get her
So
perspective.
you're gonna
up
be our
close.
duelist this time?
Maybe?
Yeah.
恥ずかしい。
She has troubles of the heart, so...
Yeah.
だったんだけど、私ルームメイトもいないからまた来てくれると嬉しいな。
Different colored rose today.
Yeah.
You know me so well.
このバラのトゲが必要なんでしょう。そうだな。誰よりも美しく、誰よりも危険なバラのトゲならば、天井ウテナも倒せるよ。
Cool.
How will this turn into a duel, though?
バラにも天敵の害虫がいる。
虫の毒か効くかなこのバラに。
仕掛けはできているよ。
We shall see.
ねえ、
Wait.
いつもやってる。
Yeah.
どういう意味？審問はもう終わりなのかい？
Oh,
Come
not
on.
answer that question. Oh, okay.
どんな気分だった？
何がだよ。
決まってるでしょ。やっぱり痛いの？
To have a sword pulled from me.
そんなことより問題は今後の対策だよ。ジュリさん。そうだな。
Not being present,
今
sorry.
日は先に失礼させてもらうよ。
Yeah, my mind is elsewhere.
We get the elevator scene going away from the student council room.
That's rare. In fact, that might be the only time that's ever happened.
Yeah.
彼はあの頃からジュリさんのことを一番思っているよ。でもあなたから彼を奪ってしまったこと後悔はしていません。こんな私をあなたはきっと憎んでいますよね。
Ah, the miscommunication.
Yeah.
Painful.
お話ししたいことがあるんですけど。
Oh.
お願いです。
She might not be mad at you for stealing.
Okay, they're still here. This is good.
結局別れました。でも私があなたから強引に彼を奪ったという事実は消えません。許されることではありませんよね。だけど あの頃に戻れたらって今でも思っています。
I think she's mad you left.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
あの頃は楽しかった。私とジュリさんと彼の3人で。
話というのは
Nothing else.
私はこれで
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
私は彼のことなど何とも思っていない。今もあの頃も。
そんな。
そう。私は彼を愛してはいなかった。君が気に病むことは何もない。
ペンダントには誰の写真が入ってる？
Yeah, who's indeed?
今だってその服の下に隠してるんでしょ。
Mm-hmm. But just like that bird, you can't see what's right in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
事情は知らないけど許してあげたらどうです？しおりさんいい人じゃないですか。昔は仲良かったんでしょ？本当に先輩のこと信頼してるみたいだし。君もしおりと同じだな。残酷な無邪気さだよ。
Oh. This is what it's gonna be. She's gonna think it's Utena's picture.
Oh.
意外と心の狭い人だったんだな。
Mm.
第一あんな言い方しなくてもいいのに。
君はまるで水亀座の少年ガニメデです。
Mhm.
無邪気で純粋だ。だがその無邪気さが人を傷つける。
Yeah, especially if used kind of rambunctiously and
Right.
self-awareness. Yeah.
触れられたくないことが誰にもあるものです。
Yeah. True.
そんなもんでしょ
Usually something pure and precious and
Innocence is also ignorance in a way. Frustration.
yeah.
君の写真を捨てられなかったのは私の弱さだ。
Oh.
私は奇跡を信じない。
No.
誰か来たのかしら。
Damn. Same color and everything. Wow.
あ、
これはジュリさんの。
Here we go.
私は子供の頃からジュリさんが憎かった。才能があって綺麗でみんなから慕われる。
Oh.
そんなジュリ
Oh,
さん
okay.
が魂しかった。
Crap.
そうなんです。彼と愛し合ったのもジュリさんの大切なものを奪いたかった。ただそれだけ。
Mm-hmm.
だから。
So when's she gonna see what's in the locket?
ジュリさんはとても優しくしてくれました。でもそれは私のことをバカにして、地味で取り柄のない私に同情して優しくしてくれるんだってそう思ってました。そんなの惨めです。だからジュリさんとの関係を変えたかったんです。だけど彼とのことは私を前より惨めにしました。自分から望んでしたはずなのに、今は私もあの人と対等。いや私が勝った。ジュリさんの心の中にはいつも私がいた。
Okay.
私だ。
Wow.
どうしましょう。お友達の秘密を知ってこんなに嬉しくてたまらないなんて。
Fuck.
あの人こっそり私の写真を見て一人で悩んでたんだ。ダメ、やっぱりダメよ。あなたがそんな目で私を見てたなんてどうして。
Yeah, there's so much self-hatred in this.
And the poison has circulated and you've accepted. Yep.
Now, how is a fight with Utena going to get at this? I mean, I guess once she's mind-controlled, it's not her choice anyways, but...
しおり。
Oh!
は何だい？
これあなたのでしょ。
どうしてそれを？
Wow.
言ってくれればもっといい写真をあげたのに。
Here comes the sword.
Yeah. Okay.
Beautiful. In her locker again. Okay.
Yep.
So we've fully set the pattern in now. So this is active manipulation by a third party
Right, to make
that
them
is setting a
fight
pattern
Utena.
in place to get at Utena.
Right.
But they have to use these kind of carnal basic means, even though they seem to be supernatural.
Yeah.
All right, so what's going to be the set piece for
Right.
for her? Ah, the little birds, of course,
Okay.
of course.
決闘に勝ちバラの花嫁にしよう。この黒バラにかけて誓う。そう、ジュリを支配するのはこの私。
But you barely know Auntie.
Again, this is about Utena, though. So, yeah, we're just kind of making our way through the cast of the characters that are
Yeah.
their kind of hearts are kind of focused around, you know?
なぜだあれほど先輩を慕っていたのに。
分かったからよ。
何が。
ジュリはみんなの思ってるようなジュリじゃないってこと。そして私の方が強かったってこと。でもあなたこれでおしまいよ。
Oh, the way
Even
they
the birds
all
acknowledge
tilted
it.
up and acknowledged it.
Yeah.
Easy.
So what happens now? Because even more so than a lot of the others, I want to see her response to all of this.
Right,
When
right,
she wakes
same.
up, you know?
聞きたい聞きたい聞きたい。どうしようかな。
なんだか人が変わったみたいだね、しおりさん。
Right.
そうですか。あの人は変わってませんよ。全然。
Hmm.
Hmm.
それじゃダメよね。経験者は語る。こんにちはジュリさん。
いや、
ねえ、それでどうしたのよ。だからね、私言ってやったの。何やってんのよって。マジ？私
Ah.
いや、行くぞ言った。
Okay.
結局また私の手に戻ってきた。一度は捨てることができたのに、なぜ私は強くなれないんだろう。
Okay.
All right. To that forever. Enter your heart. Okay. I feel like I'm left with more questions than usual from this one.
I feel like this one was about as kind of by the numbers of all the stuff that we've done thus
Yes.
far. And
Yes, it
thus it's
was.
actually kind of the simplest. The main thing is that we just kind of resolved the question as to what was the motivation behind Shiori's actions. And we know now that it was because of her actual like
Jealousy and
jealousy and hatred of Juri.
right.
And Juri now kind of is aware of that a little bit, but she just can't help the fact that she still loves her, you know?
Okay.
All right, we got some Juri focus.
Yep, I like it.
Yeah, it's good. We also got to have Shiori brought back in. She's no longer with the boyfriend. She broke up
Right.
with him because she ended up really feeling really just gross inside about what she did. So
Yeah.
she goes back to Juri to kind of get some closure with this. But we end up revealing over the course of the elevator ride that the reason why she did all this in general was to spite Juri and take away something from her because of how perfect she saw her as.
Right.
And there's a lovely twisted element to that where
She couldn't even do that, right?
she couldn't even do that right, but also it's something where you could even potentially say that Shiori has feelings for her, has an attraction towards Juri,
Sure.
but because of her own internalized self-hatred and potentially even also maybe a little bit of a thing of like, no, it's wrong, I can't feel that way. She doesn't let it turn into that, and
Yeah.
thus she ends up hating Juri by extension for making her feel this way.
I could definitely see that being the case. And I could also see it being something that comes after as a result of this hateful obsession, you know? Right? Because either way, it's something where you've got a lot of focus.
You're fixated on somebody.
Yeah, you're fixated on somebody.
Yeah.
And especially at that young kind of age, crushes can be very similar to obsessions, right?
Oh yeah, they are obsessions.
Yeah, exactly. So, and with the elevator ride, like that was probably the most interesting part to me from this episode in that that's where we got to see her internal state because
Right.
this is in a lot of ways It's something where we didn't actually get too much on her internals from the previous Yuri episode, but now we do. Okay, cool. And she is very much torn up inside to the point where, okay, yes, it absolutely makes sense that she could be preyed upon for the whole elevator Black Rose thing and all that stuff.
Yeah, there's always one character that's connected to all the student council that is going to be used in this way.
Exactly.
It's a formula at this point. So now this was probably the most formulaic of the ones here because I really felt that the Black Rose duet, basically, group needed... Soji and Mamiya, they really needed to manipulate things exactly right. Otherwise, the duel wouldn't make sense. So that this one was primarily okay, we're going to have to be a little bit overt here. We're going to need to set things up not just by putting something in Utena's locker, but specifically putting the locket that Juri threw into the pond out of just the frustration of, I need to sever this connection here. I'm tired of feeling this way. Why am I not strong enough to let go of this? Oh, I did it. Great, I feel shitty, but okay.
Yeah.
Then brings it back to out of the pond, gives it to Shiori, and then sets this whole thing up. Oh, that's so fucked up. Like,
because one of the things that I was kind of wondering is, would it be something where Juri would actually be the one that would be the duelist because she would be so so distraught over all of the stuff that's happening, right? But it actually wasn't that. She was able to resolve it pretty well.
Well, right. She's already resolved her thing, and obviously formula-wise it wasn't going to be that. But I get what you're saying in that it's something that...
New characters for the new duelists, all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But the sword needed to come from Juri because... I think in some ways because of the nature of the heart and the swords and the way that relates to the world building here.
Yeah, some kind of aspect of the mechanics where it has to be from someone that you have a close heart-to-heart connection with, and ideally the actual source of the pain that causes them to then be susceptible to their manipulations in the elevator and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's something where they're exploiting basically the heart that's longing to be given to the person but can't, so they go in and use the magic of this world to rip it out and use that. And I love that that's something that we're consistently using here because of the broken hearts that we had from the first kind of section of the story. Juri's was the one that I felt the most like tragically connected to. Like I really resonated with that pain that she had of just the love that could never be. And it's just like, that's just something that happens. Yeah.
And given that the issues that Shiori had were very much like that, I want to make sure I don't just use it as a catch-all term because I feel like there's more to it than this, but that kind of self-hatred, self-loathing, the complications because she knows the guilt and everything because she did something and she's like, I'm a horrible person for doing that. And then on top of all of this, right, because she comes back here because it's I'm going to try and set things right. I'm going to, I feel really bad about what happened. The situation with the boyfriend, that's resolved. Right. He's out of the picture, but I want to fix this. And then, oh, surprise, it was actually even worse than you thought it was. Yeah. Right? And so then that's the thing that pushes her to the breaking point, and then she turns into the duelist. Okay, cool.
Yeah, because there's a sadistic streak with Shiori in that she likes to have power over Juri. She very much enjoyed the parts where Juri felt like she had something taken away from her by Shiori. And she's like, yeah I did that. That was me, my ability, my will, my power.
Right.
And then when Juri basically says, you don't have any power over me anymore, through all the times she comes back here, that manifests that same resentment that she had from before. And she's like, okay, well, find them. Yeah. I'm gonna take this from you. I really like that we've doubled down on the pain for Juri here, and this is something that's happened basically again, where she tried to spite her, specifically to hurt her. And because of this whole thing happening within the mechanics of what Soji and Mami are kind of doing here, she doesn't have any memory as to having done this.
Yeah.
But I think Juri learned a lot about
the fact
about Shiori. Yeah.
The fact that the characters were pushed to this to these extremes is something that will be helpful for them. As far as the duels themselves, it's more of a way for Utena to be able to see the kind of stuff that they were dealing with, right? But Utena is not actually the one that is
solving their problems.
Is solving their problems or really involved in their problems. Like I loved how Juri brought it up of like, no, don't stick your nose where it doesn't belong.
Exactly.
Like, this is my business, you know. And hey, as thick-skulled as Utena was, she still got that. So cool.
Yes. There was definitely a part in the beginning, though, where Anthi seemed to kind of feel like she should step in or notice some things, though.
Well, so what I'm guessing is that Anthi saw a bit of a kindred spirit there. There was even a point where when Shiori went down and became a duelist, her profile with the silhouette looked very similar to Anthi's profile, right? And what I would guess is if Anthi is able to speak with such confidence about Shiori's situation, it's because that feels familiar. And so when I think about someone who is, you know, Shiori's thing of enjoying the ability to cause other people pain, I think we have seen little bits of that from Anthi. Like, you know, at least in the, even if it was a silly bit, we saw that in the last episode with her, you know, sending Nanami on this whole escapade, right?
True.
So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if that's why Anthi was able to speak with conviction of no, she's exactly the same as she's always been.
Yeah.
And one of the vibes that I also got from this is that this duel isn't to like make progress, so to speak, on their dynamic.
No.
It's to reintroduce their dynamic as something that is going to be in the show, right? And so now this is something that might be able to be addressed, right? Because she's actually back at the school now, right? As opposed to with some of the other situations. Yeah, exactly.
Things might be simpler in that regard.
Right.
I did want to bring up something, though, of the way in which Anthi was used in this episode, because in the beginning, she kind of sees the elements about her and kind of observes her a little bit.
Right.
But then once she kind of has this like, it's time to kind of to leave here and stuff like that. You know, she's by the window here, Shiori. Anthi kind of seems to be kind of watching this whole thing here. And then we cut to the building that then goes down, very much elevator style. And it was just something that made me kind of click for a second here. I think whenever we go down like this, like with the elevator, for instance, or into this world where
the rose floating on the little rectangle of water and all that.
Right. This area where Soji and Mamiya are. I really feel like this is an element of the hidden world that the school is basically subjected to.
Okay.
But if you're going to have these new characters effectively be brought in here, they need to be tied to some relevance to the main cast in a direct way as well. Yeah. And I really like the idea that this is potentially even like something that's connected to Anthi specifically.
Okay.
Anthi being the Rose Bride.
Bride. Yeah, she's inherently plugged into the mechanics of the supernatural elements and all that stuff of the world.
Right. And when they do the elevator in the bit where the duelists who are basically being set up to fight Utena, it almost feels like we're going into their own inner broken psyche. So like going down is an element of like delving into who they are.
I like it
a little bit and seeing what's their true self, and it kind of gets rudely like wrested to the surface by going through the chaotic elevator of, you know, Hubri-Han, all that.
Yeah.
And Mamiya and Shoji in some ways feel like this like gender swapped like dark twist on Utena and Anthi.
Okay.
Even like their designs, their look and everything.
Yeah.
And if they're basically like antagonists or potentially like alternate like inner selves or something like that, or like inner portions of who they are and stuff. like Mamiya being here and kind of having this bit here could be something as a reason as to why we cut straight from Anthe here to them. I'm just trying to figure out the editing and the way in which this show seems to be setting up a very crazy supernatural explanation for everything.
Right. So the things that come to mind with regards to that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
There's a few things. One, it's on an episodic formula so far, where we'll introduce a character, show their problem and all that stuff, and then have the duel and have it resolved all in the one episode. Mm-hmm. So as far as the editing, I think it makes sense for it to be very direct and to the point and just, like not mess around. The transitions aren't necessarily going to be very take a long time. And then for all of the supernatural stuff that is happening and is to be read into, some of it will be atmospheric,
I definitely think you're right on that. The issue is that Anthe's thoughts in this bit here, like what she's thinking as she's observing, feels so kind of, I don't know, strange, I guess, because of the way in which Anthe seems to be kind of the quiet, just observer in this trio kind of bit here where we see, what's going on with Shiori. She's kind of just expositing about how she feels and all that. Mm-hmm. And then we have a lingering, like, multi-setup shot here, also with an interspersed cut here with Shiori being like, I don't have a roommate, so please come visit me again. She's talking, obviously, to the two of them as they left her room. But the fact that we then lace that with Anthe kind of thinking about...
Well, and looking at the room with the open window.
Which is where she was sitting, out thinking about this stuff. But so if there were to be some connection, I don't think I like the Soji and Mamiya are like alternate versions of Anthe or Utena or whatever, things like that. But the fact that Anthe was specifically looking at the window and all that stuff, we had someone deposit the necklace, right, with the picture in her room. Mm-hmm. Now, while it could definitely be Soji and Mamiya, right? Well, I think
because that feels like what's implied, and they're the ones with the motivation and all that stuff. Anthe is the only one that seemed to be really focusing on that's where her room is, and things like that.
And the reason why I like where you're going with this here is because the space that they inhabit, Soji and Mamiya, seems to be so wholly supernatural, and that there's no actual correlation to it in the real world.
Weird example, but using Dark Souls 3 as a connection point, we never see them enter Firelink Shrine.
No.
Right? It's always warping from there, so
And so Anthe, being the one that sets this up in some way, plays into the idea that Anthe is both the bird in the cage, the princess in the cage here, but is very much specifically like either pecking at people's fingers as they come near the cage, or the cage is a lot bigger than we, give it credit for. And this environment here is one where she is the princess. She is the Rose Bride. She has a little bit of power here. But everybody's trapped in here with her. And
she plays the archetype of the, she has played the archetype of the damsel in distress plenty, but also she's probably my favorite single shot from the ED. She's the person who then looks over the shoulder with the cold stare, right? Mm-hmm. So she gets more and more enigmatic as the show goes on, right?
Yeah. And if we lean into that, structurally, she is essentially doing some measure of the same thing that Soji and Mamiya are doing.
Okay.
That's why I see there as being like some kind of connection there, where it's the designs of Soji and Mamiya are far too similar to the two of them to be I would say anything but a...
Although they specifically have the desire to kill Anthe.
Well, there's some things here that I feel like are being held back from us where, no, of course, a bunch of this stuff doesn't make sense just as much as my theory doesn't fully make sense. But there is very much an identity plot line that has been going through the entire story here.
Right.
For not just Utena, but for Anthi. And as we bring more and more of the characters into okay, let's dig down deep and peel back their ugly layers and see who they really are. We've got to have that eventually for Anthi.
Well, and that's where I think if I were to, so when I think of episodic storytelling and the strengths that it can have, you know, production, release stuff aside of, you know, making sure that people don't need to know what happened in the very previous episode and all that.
Right.
It's for specifically setting up some kind of breadcrumb trail for the narrative that you want to have in there, right? And so you have something that's fun and engaging on its own that can be taken just as a one thing, and then you add up all the little bits that you've been sprinkling throughout, and then you get something really big over the course of the story, right?
Yeah.
And
Anthi is the best example of that.
Anthi is absolutely 100%
Utena's number 2.
The breadcrumb trail that this show is laying out right now.
Yep.
Now, to what end, that's part of the mystery and the fun, right? It keeps us on our toes. We don't know exactly what the show is doing with Anthi, but we know it's going in some very interesting directions, right?
And I think I'm starting to see which direction they're taking this in, because there's two angles to Anthi. One is the damsel in distress, the princess, the one that is the stereotypical literal archetype in a hard meta trope way that is there on full display, and yet there is another side to her that she leaks out every once in a while that shows that she is very much aware that she is playing that role, and she is not necessarily enjoying that role, but it is what she needs to do, either because she has little agency in the story, and this is her fighting back, or it's I don't have all my agency back yet, and I am fighting to get it, and over the course of time, she will get it back, and that's why the OP has them, again, showing them in their triumphant stage at some point. Because if this is the section of the story where we're delving deep into the side cast, basically, and all their stuff here, but it's based around some shadow group that's manipulating things to get at Utena, then that means we're going to have a repeat of at some point with what Toga brought in at the end of the first thing, where at the end of this, someone is going to defeat Utena, bring back her own identity crisis issues, and I think that we're setting up things primarily for that to be Anthi connected.
Well, I for the lion's share of what you're saying, I agree. With narrative, generally, if you're having a bunch of subplots, the way they'll be nested within each other. So like, you know, whatever's brought up at the beginning, that'll probably be resolved towards the end, you know, things like that, right? And so if you have episodic stuff, it's introduced here and then it's all wrapped up. I feel like that's something. Anthi is very much the main character alongside Utena, right?
Yes.
So I don't know. I feel like we're on the edge of figuring it out.
The reason why is because this episode was so straightforward with the Juri Shiori stuff. That if you remove that, there's actually a very clear, specific Anthi focus that had 2 scenes specifically kind of capitalizing on it.
And weirdly enough, where this is making my mind go, even though I don't necessarily see the motivations for it, is that Anthi specifically might have been the one to get the pendant, the locket, and put it in there. Maybe specifically to make Shiori suffer. Like
okay, but still, that's the goals of that was the thing that Shoji and Mamiya wanted, basically.
No,
so
totally.
She's at the very least then working with them,
well,
or under the influence of them.
Well, or doing something that ends up helping out their objective.
Right.
Yeah.
Under the influence, then they manipulated the situation so that Anthi would then end up doing that. Anthi didn't see the pendant get thrown into the water. How did she know it was there?
Well, okay, I think that's a problem for, you know, regardless of just however the pendant got, the locket got found. But Anthi has been paying a lot of attention to Shiori, so I absolutely could buy that, you know.
I'm with you, but again, Shiori didn't throw the pendant in there.
That was Juri.
Juri.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is that that's a very clear thing there, that if you want to go with the Anthi grab the pendant, then Anthi then is probably connected to, potentially even influenced directly by Soji and Mamiya. Because Soji and Mamiya show an omniscience that is far beyond them being just basic physical.
Well, yeah,
beings,
even
right?
the stuff of like the rose that's in the waterbed or whatever.
Yeah.
And it having like the same color as like Juri's hair.
Yeah.
That's
It's
the
them,
kind
like,
of stuff
studying
where
her heart, basically.
Well,
Like,
I was gonna say, I mean, yeah, studying, sure, but it also feels like it's the kind of thing where they're kind of planting the seeds of the discontent, of the emotional turmoil, sort of fanning those flames so that way it can get to a point where they can take advantage of it, right? Because given that they have clearly some level of, you know, mind control abilities, whether it's through like devices or, you know, however it works,
however
right?
it is, yeah.
Having something like some level of clairvoyance around what people are feeling and thinking and stuff, that kind of goes along with it pretty closely.
Right.
But
yeah.
yeah.
Final thing I just wanted to bring up, because this has now been the third time that we've had this type of duel.
Yeah.
The idea of having now in every single time Mamiya and Soji actually influencing it, and this was probably the most overt of those times there.
Right, because the duel had nothing to do with Utena.
Nothing.
She was challenged, but like even in the Mickey situation, it's still something where it's he liked Anthi, so that's how you get at it, right?
Right. But this was one where the two of them very much need duelists. They themselves cannot do things directly. Furthermore, tying, in my opinion, the idea that if we're going to have any kind of resolution to them as people, they need to be able to be directly involved in the story, and thus they need to have an emotional, physical connection with a character in the story now. And so, by extension, then Anthi is at the very least one of them. And
one good thing to just make sure you keep in mind, though, is that Soji was originally established as, you know, the genius at the school and all that stuff, right? So he does have a very physical presence, but it hasn't been shown, I'm guessing, because it isn't relevant right now. But that was
I know, but all the times where he's interacting with Mamiya are not those kinds of things. We're in a dark black void with a rose there and stuff like that.
Yeah,
so,
right. We see the building that they're supposed to be under, but we don't actually see them go into that space or whatever.
Yeah,
just,
exactly.
They're there.
It's and regardless of whether or not that's the case with Soji, that's not the case with Mamiya. Mamiya has never been in any of those kinds of instances.
Yes, that is true.
That.
Yeah.
So at the very least, regardless of, because there's a whole part of me that's wanting to take the entire setting of the school and all this stuff entirely non-literally anyway.
Right, it's so thematic that it's right next door neighbors to that, even if it isn't actually non-literal stuff.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. So from that respect, I don't care who does what in the physical space of this world. We are so close to the.
Right, it's all about what it represents.
Yeah, the entire thing is for the focus of the themes and getting at these characters' hearts and stuff, that, you know, buildings and dimensions and stuff like that are all there to reflect back on the characters, not there to know that, well, that building is to the left and this building is 60 feet high and
one
stuff.
Of the things,
it's almost entirely irrelevant to me.
One of the things I would have been kind of curious to see if this show wasn't in episodic format quite as much is the characters interacting with people like Soya and Mamiya just in sort of the daily life, you know, running into Soji, thank you. Yeah. Just to see that kind of like, what are they up to in their regular time? Because given the level of scheming that they're doing for this, I still feel like I don't actually know them as people.
Again,
right?
That's where my theory a lot of the time comes from, is that they primarily don't seem to be focused on as people in this school in the same way that everybody else is.
In this story, they're right now a force.
Yep.
Much less so characters.
Much less so characters. To contrast that with Akio, who wasn't in this episode, even though he has been in a lot of the previous ones. Or he was. He was for like.
Utena went and talked to him for a little bit.
He was in there for one scene. That's true. So he was in there. He's an example of a character that's been recently introduced alongside Soji and Mamiya, but has an actual direct physical presence through multiple characters.
Exactly.
And not just that, there's a specific place where they go to see him
Yep.
multiple times.
He feels much more established in this world and in the characters' lives. Whereas with like the other two, we saw Mickey talk to Soji once. You know,
right.
Like,
And Akio, for instance, we did see in a very specific instance interacting with Anthi in a supernatural space of sorts, or some kind of not fully explained space, looking at the visage of the prince on that orb, that sphere. So that's something that, short of that happening at some point very quickly in the future, that's where a lot of my theory comes from.
Gotcha.
But yeah, really crazy stuff.
Yep.
Very, very straightforward episode, and yet we still got a lot out of,
because this show makes
discussion.
us all a certain way. You know, it's like,
because what they do focus on means then that certain things that weren't focused on then get accentuated.
Yep.
So there we go. But y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get an early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us in the community there about this show, about anime in general, and also be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
Yes, this guy has some pretty crazy Persona 5 plays that he's doing right now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I forgot to do how to do the shoutouts properly in the outro here. But yeah, if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all
next time.